Enthusiasm can help you find the new doors, but it takes passion to open them. If you have a strong purpose in life, you don't have to be pushed. Your passion will drive you there. Roy T. Bennett. Welcome to the Lost Traveler Podcast. I am your ever-loving host, Henry Cameron Allen. And today I have a real treat for everybody. His name is Scott White. We're meeting now for the first time, and you get to meet him with me. He is a writer. He's known as the Life is Too Short guy. He is all about the power of positivity and positive thinking. Welcome. We need you in the world right now. I feel very, very proud to have you here as a guest co-host.
So grateful to be here. I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah. So where was this ignited in you? This sense of not only the world needing more positivity, but you being a vehicle for it.
So it was an evolutionary process. It didn't just happen in a moment in time. What I would say is that for my entire life, I've generally been a positive, high energy person. Look, it wasn't, people would ask me, were you born this way? Were you this way as a kid? I don't remember. I suspect that it evolved, and I suspect that I figured it out over time. And there were certainly moments in my life, and I talk about them in the book, that were major aha moments that helped me formulate this life philosophy. But I didn't have a title for it. Had you and I met literally 3 years ago, I wouldn't have brought this topic up. I just would have been a happy guy that lives life to the most, very positive, super high energy. Let's have fun. And then 2 years ago, during early in 2021, I started working with a new executive coach. I like working with coaches. I like learning. I like developing. And, in our first session, he did a bunch of assessments. He gave me different surveys to fill out and interview, so on and so forth. Second session, he starts the call. Literally, this is how he started. He's like, dude, you are Mr. Life is Too Short guy. Everything's rah-rah, get it done today. Urgency, happiness. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's right. But I never really thought of it in that lens or that construct. And then that night, I mentioned it to my wife, and she said to me, she's like, maybe that's the book you always wanted to write. I've always wanted to write a book, and I never knew what it would be about. And she mentions this, and I'm like, I don't know, like, what would that book be about? And then, she planted that seed. It started percolating a little bit, and one thing led to another. And then, bam, I started writing the book, and it just came out, and it's been an amazing, fun, exciting, unbelievable journey. I again, 2 years ago, wouldn't have told you I'm on this mission to make the world happier. I just live my life. I live my life. I meet people. I meet you on the street. I shake your hand. I give you a high five. I'm like, hey, Henry Cameron, how's your day going? Like, that's the life I lived. And now I'm like, wait a second. I am blessed to have the opportunity to share this with so many people. And now that's my mission. Now that's my passion. That's what excites me. And doing this on your show right now is just, this is what I realized this is what I was meant to do.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Couldn't be more excited.
That's great. What were you doing before this?
So I still, this is a hobby. This is a passion. It's not a full-time profession. I work professionally. I'm the chairman and CEO of a public real estate company, and I'm the founding partner of a student housing development company. So I'm involved in real estate, and that's where I actually make a living. Mm-hmm. And this is a passion project, and it's so much fun. Maybe someday this will become a full-time profession, but for now, it's just spreading love and happiness and gratefulness and positivity and making people smile like you.
That's beautiful. I can't help but smile listening to you. One of the things that I've started doing this season is asking each of my co-hosts to come up with a question for the next co-host. And I have a question that it always ends up this way. Somehow, intuitively, the prior person to you, the one I interviewed a week or two ago, has come up with a question that is obviously meant for you to answer. And so I'm going to ask you that question now, but then I want you to be thinking over the next hour of a question to leave for the next co-host, just whatever occurs to you. So your question is, which is more important to follow, your passion or your purpose?
Oh, passion, no question.
If that isn't the perfect question for you, I don't know.
I don't even have to think about it. So here's that is a perfect question. That is amazing because I do talk a lot about this. I think purpose is an overused trite phrase. I think that people, in my opinion, spend too much energy and brain damage, quite frankly, trying to figure out what their purpose is in life. I'd rather chase a passion, and your passion will change. So what's the difference? So let's start there. How do I define the difference? To me, a purpose is some higher level esoteric. I figured out what I was put on this world to do, and now I'm doing that. A passion is something that energizes, excites you, gets the juices flowing, gets you fired up, gets you motivated, inspired. You wake up and you're like, today I get a chance to talk to Henry Cameron. I am passionate about talking about this book. My purpose, hard to say. Maybe it's my purpose. Maybe it isn't. It feels like it today. But then again, had you talked to me 3 years ago, I couldn't have told you this was my purpose. To me, passion is a bit more transient. It's a bit more temporary, but I think everyone needs a passion. Everyone needs multiple passions. In fact, in the book, The Life is Too Short Guy, I lay out the principles of what I call LITSIG, LITSG, Life is Too Short Guy, LITSIG. And one of the principles, I think it's the 8th principle, is passion. Find your passion, chase your passion, figure out your passion, spend time on your passion, go all in on your passion. To me, passion is more than an interest. If I say, what's your interest? I like playing golf, or I like music. What's your passion? And you could just see somebody's eyes light up. Like, I am passionate about spreading this LITSIG message. I'm passionate about speaking before audiences and crowds around the world. I'm passionate about the book I wrote, and I'm going to write another one about it. This is a passion. I think passion's a beautiful, wonderful word. Sorry.
And the world.
More passions. And the world needs more passions.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. I'm Queen Bee Divine. The cure is conversation. And where can you find me? At bluntreflections.com, where I will be talking to guests from around the world that not only share their time, but their insights and their tips on how they became the best version of who they were meant to be. So if you're looking for a great story and a great time, check me out at bluntreflections.com. The cure is conversation. And remember, blase blase means to tell your story.
That's powerful. I think, I guess in my experience, they are different, but they are connected. You know, I mentioned to you when we met just a few minutes ago, that I experienced a very difficult time in my life in the passing of my son, Cameron, when he was 13 years old, from brain cancer, a kind of cancer that was not genetic, completely unexpected, and there are still no answers why he would have gotten this kind of cancer that was only found in men over 45, right? So it's rare when a young child experiences it. And so I had the gift of 2 years with him, his last 2 years, to process all of this with him. He was fully aware every step of the way what was going on. He was aware that his energy was going to be shifting into something else coming up. And I know many, many families now through this work that I've been doing since, that had a child healthy there one day, gone the next, taken in an accident, or God forbid by their own hand, or overdose, or illness, hit by a car, drunk driver, you know, that kind of a thing. I can't imagine that experience. They can't imagine watching your child expire for 2 years, helpless to do anything about it. And what I was left with at the end of all of that was my passion and my purpose were completely shattered. Anyone who's a parent, and I've heard you talk about your children before, anyone who's a parent understands that it is the core of your identity. It is who you are in the world. Every house you live in, every career choice you make, every roll of toilet paper you buy, you are thinking about your child's tushy, right? And so when that's plucked out of the equation, what does that mean for you? It's really, for me, it was an existential crisis. And it's been 15 years now on this journey, this grief journey. And what I've come to in all of this is that for someone who has experienced a major trauma in their life that is life altering in that sense, looking for a renewed sense of purpose is vitally important to your mental health,
Sure.
your self-awareness, how you move forward in re-engaging with your passion or with a passion that maybe you didn't have before. If there's a gift to be found in this journey of child loss, is that it resolved a fear for me. My only underwriting fear my whole life was outliving my children. Since I was 8 years old, I wasn't a scared kid. I wasn't afraid of the monster under the bed or in the closet, or I wasn't afraid of the dark or bugs or snakes. I had a homework assignment that I had to fill out. I had to write a paragraph on what is your greatest fear. I was 8 years old. I remember this. And my teacher said, write about your greatest fear. And all I could think was, why would a grown-up ask a child to meditate on what they're afraid of? That was me at 8. And the only thing I could think of was outliving my children. So call it a premonition, but having that come to the other side of that resolved that fear forever. And it re-engaged me with a sense of purpose and passion. And so what I conflate the two, even though they're different qualities, I've conflated them into what we call a vocation or a calling. What is your calling? Where that deep joy in your soul meets a great need in the world. That is your calling. That is the vocation, the thing that calls to you and the thing that calls from you. And so I think that for me anyway, there can be a danger in being too wrapped up in the passion without applying a sense of purpose to it. What do you think?
Do you think you could have more than one purpose?
That's a really good question. Yes. But I think that what I found in my 30s and 40s, I'm 57 now, was that I had been taught a series of deficiencies, call them, throughout my life, generationally, where it's expected that you will compartmentalize your purposes.
Okay.
Right? And they're unrelated. Your home life, your family life is separate from your work life.
Okay.
And you go home at the end of the day, put your feet up and pour a scotch, right? Work, and we can't wait to retire. Can't wait for the weekend. Can't wait to go on vacation, right? We separate all those things into different compartments. But I have since allowed them all to bleed into one another to make up the whole person that I am. And so the overarching purpose that I have, and I've identified this, is life skills education. Globally, universally. All 8 billion of us on this planet are learning the same life skills, the same essential human life skills: communication skills, financial literacy, emotional literacy, sexual literacy, environmental literacy. The list goes on. Grief is a big one. Aging well is another universal life skill that we are not taught. Most of these things are not actively taught in the home, or if they are, they're passed on in very deficient ways. And so how do we raise our proficiency? So this has become my purpose and my passion. And it touches my theater work as a theater artist, as a director, international theater director. It touches my work with the Lost Travelers Club, which this podcast is the funding source for through sponsorships and donations. It funds my my Guywire work, my grief and bereavement counseling work that I also do internationally. So it touches every aspect of all of these other aspects of who I am. So I have that one overarching purpose that underneath the umbrella of gives life to all these other passions that I have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but do you think you have just one purpose for life? Like, is it possible 25 years from now you'll discover a new purpose? Or is this it? This is your purpose and you figured it out?
Listen, I'm 57. I'm not done yet.
I
can
agree.
only, I can only focus on this moment. And what I know to be true is that my entire biography, and your entire biography, Scott, and the biographies of our parents, and the biographies of their parents, and the biographies of all of our ancestors, including my child, who is now my ancestor. How's that for a mind blow? All the way back to our common ancestor that every human shares, the mitochondrial Eve, right?
Mhm.
All that love, all that pain, all that joy, all that suffering, all that dreaming has led to this moment.
Yep.
Everything prior to this moment lives only in your memory and your imagination. Everything from this moment forward lives in your imagination. What's real is this conversation right now in this moment. That's all that is, that we know. So what do we do with that information, right? So yes, I think that my overarching purpose in life is to be a helper through life skills education universally. I don't see any point in the future. I can't imagine any point in the future where that would not be the case. But what it has given birth to is all these wonderful passions that I didn't realize were,
Right.
the potentiality of what I can do. How do I affect my purpose? That's my passion. A guy wire is a tensioned cable that is designed to enhance the stability of a freestanding structure. Think of me as your guy wire. In terms of life skills mentoring, you're perfectly capable of standing stably on your own 2 feet. But I'm a cable that can enhance your stability. I'm available for individual or couples counseling, life skills mentorship, child loss grief support, LGBTQ plus support. I can also officiate weddings, end-of-life ceremonies, baby namings, invocations, or whatever guidance you may need. I serve all genders, all ages. Sessions are affordable, discreet, private, and conducted online. Find me at guy-wire.org. Book your appointment today. How about you?
Look, it's a great way of weaving it together. I'm unsure of the purpose question. I haven't come to a conclusion yet, and I generally believe that when I hear people speak, including sort of where you just were, is people look for that sole purpose in life. I was put on this earth for one thing and one thing only. And now that could be broadly encompassing, right? That one thing could cover 20,000 different tentacles, so to speak.
Yeah.
I haven't figured that out yet. Instead, I chase, maybe in a transient way, passions and go all in on those passions. And I think as I age, those passions become deeper and more mature and more meaningful.
Right.
It might have been a passion in my 20s. Was I'm trying to think of what could have been a passion then. Evolves to today, where I figured out now this is my passion. This is my, does it reach the level of a purpose? Maybe. I think it's a little bit of linguistic games to a certain degree in terms of how I define words. It wouldn't be a stretch for me to say this is my purpose. My purpose is to make the world happier, one smile at a time, is to spread this passion, to share these principles, to help people live their very best life. I think that would be fair. I think where I struggle a little bit is, do I think that's my purpose forever? I don't know. Well,
listen, nobody's promised forever.
Nobody has to, and I don't have to figure it out today.
You don't have to figure it out ever. You just have to be it.
That's it. Just keep chasing my passions and encourage other people to figure out what your passions are. It's amazing to me that I've over the years, I've interviewed hundreds of people for various different roles, assistants, interns, analysts, C-suite executives, board members. And I always ask people the same interview question. I've done this for years, so anyone that interviews with me will know it's coming. What is your passion?
Mhm.
And it's amazing to me how many times people will just be like,
I don't know.
what do you mean? Like business or personally, or you got to be able to hit, like if you ask me my passion is, boom, you open Pandora's box. Like now you are stuck. You can't escape. You're going to hear about the life is too short guy and living in the moment and positivity and gratefulness and happiness and making the most of every minute. And boom, you can't slow me down. Whereas if I say, what's your passion? I'm like, well, I don't know. I like good food. You got to figure out what your passion is. You got to wake up and figure out. And we all have it, by the way. People have asked me, well, how do I figure it out? You just got to commit to it. You got to figure out what makes you smile, what gets the juices flowing, what gets you excited, and then commit to it. Make it more than a hobby, make it more than an interest, make it a passion. And again, that passion may only last for a couple of weeks, months, or years. That's fine. You're not committing to life, but go all in on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like you, I've been working with people. I'm an educator. I've been working with all age levels, all life paths, all socioeconomic and cultural statuses. I've been a global citizen my whole life. And I did a project with the UN in 2014. They sent me to Fiji, and I developed a workshop in creative activism for youth,
Okay.
using folklore as a vehicle for positive change. And I went down there. There were about 30 young people, ages 18 to 30.
Okay.
And that was my question to them. I didn't want to be the big white American guy coming down saying, all right, little brown people, here's how you do it the American way, because we have way too much of that. But here is me coming with the expertise and the proficiencies that I have as a mentor, as a life skills educator, to draw out of them what is already living in them. That's what the word education means in its root. If you go to the etymology of the word,
Okay.
it means to draw out of, like from a well, right? It doesn't mean to thrust into, as education has become in practice. It's a whole lot of thrusting information into people. That's intrudo, in meaning in, and trudo meaning thrust. That's intrusive to the natural state that you're talking about, of these passions that are welling up in you like water in a well, and all you need to do is dip the bucket in and just draw out all this beauty that's in there. It's already there. You're absolutely right. And I asked them, what is your passion? Nobody could answer.
It's amazing.
So I gave them a very simple tool that I use all the time. I'll share it with you now. I love using this podcast as a vehicle for practical tools. Listeners, I have listeners in 41 countries, and they all have different cultural aspects and personal life paths that affect how they receive the information. But these are universal tools that we can find. Nobody can use our tools, yours and mine, the way we do, because they're not us. But when we lay our toolkit out and say, these are the tools that I've crafted, take your pick, then they can synthesize these tools into the tools they've already got and crafted for their lives and create unique tools for them. So this one's a very easy one. I'll share it with you. I'll share it with the listeners. You take a piece of paper, blank, and on the left side of the paper, you write all the things that you know you do not want in your life.
Okay.
It could be 10 things. It could be 20. It could be 100. Just write them until you can't think of anything else. That's the easiest list to make, right? We know what we don't want. We don't want to be sick. We don't want to be poor. We don't want to be, scared or unsafe. We don't want, all those things. And then when you have your list, when you feel satisfied with that, on the right side of the page, across from each one of those things, write the opposite of each one of those points. And there's your foundational list of what you want. And in that list, tear the paper in half and get rid of the negative list, burn it, eat it, get it off the planet, because it doesn't matter. all those things you don't want, it doesn't matter. Now you're left with the list of things that you have been able to identify that you do want. And in that list is where your passions live, in that foundational. My grandmother used to say, honey, raising kids is like building a house. It's all about the foundation. You know this from your work. If you have a weak foundation on a house, you're dooming that house to collapse in on itself at some point. Right? But if you have a strong foundation, the house can burn to the ground and you can build it up again. I love my grandmother. She had so much wisdom. And she's right. And this is also raising your inner child. If you didn't get a strong foundation, you can always go in and parent yourself and rebuild your foundations.
Right.
Right. So there's a practical way to start with your foundation of what you do want to manifest in your life. And in that list, you will find your passions.
I like it.
And that'll change. Like you said,
Sure.
those passions will change as you grow, as you mature, as you age. Those things change. I don't know about the purpose yet, if that changes. Once you identify your overarching purpose that those passions live underneath, maybe not. I don't know. What are some tools that you've found or developed that help people find and identify their passion?
Excuse me. So first, I think I figured out my question for you for the
Good.
next episode, as we've spent so much time talking about this.
Yes.
Ask your next guest if they have a purpose, multiple purposes, and if purpose can change over your lifetime.
Love it.
So there you go. I figured that out as listening to you as I self-reflect and contemplate the answer on my own. I don't know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to see what your next guest says. So that checks the box on that.
Shadow and Light, LLC was established by Dave Roberts and Reverend Patty Farino, co-authors of When the Psychology Professor Met the Minister. Their mission is to empower individuals to transcend life's challenges by integrating spiritual practices with psychology to achieve peace. They are available for individualized spiritual counseling, virtual or in-person book club meetings, or presentations and workshops to universities, organizations, and other interested groups. For further information, visit psychologyprofessorandminister.com.
In terms of finding your passion, I think I encourage people to think about where they spend time, where they spend energy, whether they're researching online, whether they're listening to podcasts, whether they're reading something, whether they catch themselves in a conversation. What are you doing when it's Saturday night and you're at a cocktail party or whatever? What is that conversation that just generally naturally evolves? And I think those are all signs and hints of things that you're interested in, excited about, that can develop into a passion. And I think, honestly, the harder part for me to convey to people is not finding your passion, it's committing to your passion. So I think a lot of people have interests, and what I really try to encourage them to do is take that to the next level. Take that to the, some people may say, well, it's a level of intensity. You want to make sure that whatever that interest is stays fun and you don't go too far. I agree with that. However, I think that people don't commit enough energy to things they're interested and excited about. One of the things that I talk about in the book is minutes matter. So one of the principles is minutes matter. And I walk through a visual description of you only have so many minutes left in your life. Okay. And I do not in any way give a formula for here's how you should use your minutes. You should work less, spend more time with family. You should read more, spend less time on TV. No, that's not my decision for you. And that shouldn't be a societal decision either. You shouldn't feel pressure. If you love your work, your passion, your occupation, fine. That's great. That's wonderful. Go all in on it. What I think people generally don't do is really think about minutes as a finite commodity and just let the world go by without being proactive, thoughtful, and deliberate. And the image I give people is to think of a barrel. Could be for me, it's a wine barrel. For you, it could be any barrel you want. And in this wine barrel,
pickles. I want pickle barrel.
All right, you have a pickle barrel. Yours a pickle barrel. Mine's a wine barrel. And in my wine barrel is my remaining minutes in life. And I visualize them as gold coins. They're very precious. They're gold coins. And every time I do something, including talking to you and your audience right now, I reach into the bucket and I pull out some gold coins. Today, I'm going to use about 60 gold coins talking to you. Those are 60 minutes that I will never get back. And what I want people to think about are a couple of things. One, we have no idea how many gold coins are left in that barrel. No one knows. No one knows. Two, which I think is even more important, is the leak in the bottom of the barrel. And those little coins are starting to drip out, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. All of a sudden, you get to the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, and you're like, man, I've been so busy. I don't know what I did. Like, I don't know what I accomplished. I don't know. That's what people need to stop. And when I talk about passion and I meld it with Minutes Matter, make a commitment to say whatever it is. Golf is my passion. I'm going to commit to it. I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to take lessons. I'm going to play more. I'm going to watch it on TV. I'm going to talk to people and join groups about golf. I just picked this as, you can fill in the blank. It could be wine. It could be food. It could be religion. It could be work. It could be whatever is important to you. Make the commitment, be deliberate to allocate meaningful time and resources. And by the way, resources don't necessarily mean financial resources. They could very well mean where you spend your time and how you interact with other people. Make sure that you're committing a meaningful time to something that excites you, energizes you, that maybe had I asked you, what are you into? What are you interested in? Say, oh, I'm interested in X or Y. Bring it all the way over here to I'm passionate about, and I think you'll live a happier, more fulfilling life.
That's great. I agree with you. I talk about it a lot, the concept of time and the moment, the power of the moment or the minute, as you say. I don't see the timeline that we've been taught in my experience, and maybe it's just because of my life path has given me a different perspective on it. I don't see a horizontal timeline, right? 1900, 1910, 1920, so forth, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even. Okay. I see it as a pinpoint. This pinpoint in time and space, this moment, this minute, right now, is all that is, right? Like I was saying earlier.
Right.
And I see that pinpoint as being surrounded by an infinite peacock tail of possibilities. And your responsibility is to pick one. Just pick one. That's all you have to do. You can't split yourself into multiple and go different directions. Pick one, commit to it, right? It's going to, as you say, invariably, it's going to take you on a journey. It's going to take you on an adventure to a point B. And if you arrive at that point B, maybe it'll take a week, maybe it'll take a day, maybe it'll happen right now. But if you arrive at that point B and you don't feel safe, you don't feel happy, you don't feel a sense of fulfillment, that magically, automatically, effortly turns into a new point A surrounded by infinite possibilities, and all you got to do is pick, right? So if you identify something that you feel in the moment that you are passionate about and you follow it, commit to it, get to that point B, you arrive at the point B and you're like, this isn't, I saw that coat in the window. I tried it on. It doesn't feel the way I thought it would feel. It doesn't quite fit this body, right? So I'm not going to buy the coat with those gold coins, right?
Agreed.
Right? And so you get to choose. You're the powerful one. You're the center of everything. You're the center of the universe. Every individual is the center of the universe, and everything is possible too.
I love it.
Everything is possible. Hey, are you like me, always looking for ways to make a positive impact in the world? Well, then join me in sponsoring Desire Childcare Organization. We are a legally incorporated, fully volunteer-based organization in Uganda, committed to providing essential needs, holistic arts-based education, and a safe family environment to 33 vulnerable children, ages 2 to 14. Your monthly sponsorship can help improve the lives of these kids toward a better future. Desire Childcare is different from any other charity I know because, well, we have zero administrative overhead. Every penny goes to the kids. And we have a plan towards self-sufficiency through agriculture, so support is temporary. It's kind of like a leg up. Visit desirechildcare.org to learn more and get involved. Let's empower and inspire the Desire kids together. Thanks.
I just put out so I have a newsletter and I send it out every couple of weeks. Yesterday's newsletter, I forget the exact title, but the theme was just quit. That was the theme, just quit. And the point was very much like you said. I think we have a societal bias of, and I talked about this, it's graduation season in the United States and people are finishing college, high school. And in addition to the mantra of work hard is the never give up, go all in, find your interest, your passion, and be all committed to it. Work hard, never give up, never give up. And I tell people, wrong. Because you realize, and you said it very eloquently, you get from point A to point B, and point B isn't what you expected. And that's fine. Don't waste those precious minutes at point B for some prolonged period of time because society has showed you, don't give up. You're going to make this work. If you work really hard, no. Yes, there's a time for hard work, and there's no doubt I'm a huge believer in that. I mean, in lots of different things that I've done in my life, you go on, you commit, you work hard, you're passionate about it. But there are also times that I think people spend too much time dwelling in sort of that bias of I've already committed to this, I'm going to see it through, I'm going to make it work. Sometimes it's okay to quit. And that was the theme of yesterday's newsletter.
I think that's great. And I'm going to put a link to your website in the description so that listeners can go and find you, subscribe to your newsletter, get your book, and stay in touch with you, because I think that's absolutely right. I think a lot of it too is generationally, and we have to understand that our ancestors, our precedents, grandparents, right? They went through a time where the bottom fell out of the American economy. It's still happening around the world. It's still a relevant conversation today.
Sure.
But I remember the mantra. There are a lot of mantras out there. One that this reminded me of was, don't be a quitter. Don't be a quitter, right?
Yep.
How many fathers, grandfathers said that to their boys, especially, but girls too?
Yeah.
Don't be a quitter. You know what? Yes, be a quitter. If something is not serving your highest good, how can you serve the highest good of humanity? Which I think we all want to see. We want to elevate one another, but we can only start by putting the oxygen mask on our own face before we put it on a child's face. We've got to fill our tank. We've got to fill our lungs. We've got to know who we are. You go back to ancient Greece, over the Oracle of Delphi, were inscribed the two words, know thyself. That's thousands of years ago, guys. We haven't gotten that message yet. Why have we not gotten that message? Because of the zeitgeist, the time, the spirit of the time that we are in. Right now, I cannot imagine kids your age growing up during COVID, AI, all of the chaos around the world that we're seeing. America is a great example of the chaos that is being reflected all over the world. And how does a young person get to know who they are if they've got all this distraction, if their whole world is in the palm of their hand? Think of it. I mean, if they're on TikTok or YouTube, whatever, that's where a lot of young people are learning their life skills now, because their parents are too busy trying to figure out their own stuff, right? So it's all, look at the scale. Imagine a child or an adult of any age, any size, holding a mobile phone in their hand. That's their world. That's their focus. That's where it all is, in the palm of their hand. And look at the scale. The scale is off, completely off. I'm not saying that technology or the internet are evil. They're not inherently evil. They're not inherently good. It's in our recognizing the potential of influence that they have, that we allow them to have or not have. I see it in two ways. I see One being all of the sensual world aspects, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that are all those temptations that are constantly there. They're not bad. They're not good. They're just there. Then we've got all the technological things, the internet, AI, computers, mobile phones, all robotic humanoid things that are emerging now, all of that stuff, and the temptations that world draws us into as well. We let it. I think the trick is in individualized empowerment is to be able, that we do have the capacity to recognize that those things are always there, and that we get to decide how much influence they have on our self with a capital S. And if we are the ones who choose to influence them and control them, it turns the tables on how you can navigate the world. I think we need more social interaction. It's burned into us from our earliest humanity.
Oh, no doubt.
To be social. We all want to be social. We want to get those thumbs up, likes, and we want people to follow us, and we want to follow other people. That's the human condition, right? And we can find that balance if we are conscious of it and aware of it. But I think that a lot of people are not, and they get sucked in to where they can't identify their passion because they're looking at all the influencers out there that they want to be like.
Sure.
The great Judy Garland, who played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, one of the things that she said in the course of her life was, don't try to be a second-rate version of somebody else. Be a first-rate version of yourself. Right. I love
that. Absolutely agree.
Who have been your influences and your inspirations as you were growing up, but also developing into the amazing guy that you are now?
I don't know if there were particularly strong or meaningful external influences. And when I say external, I sort of say from the outside world. Internally, certainly my family, there's no doubt about it. My parents and my wife and my kids, I think, have formulated so much of my life philosophy and so much of my belief on what's important and what's meaningful in the world. And I talk about in the book, and I mentioned this at the outset of the show, there were a couple of aha moments, eye openers in my life that certainly had an impact on how I see the world. And this life is too short guy, rah, rah, run and enjoy life. And early on in my life, when I was 10 years old, my dad had a heart attack, and I experienced that in the mid 1980s when, it's a very serious thing today, but if you rewind, 50 years, it was or 40 years, I should say, a very serious time and an opportunity for me to, when you ask about influence, have an influential impact on how I grew up in my teen years and so on and so forth. And then, later on, I lost both of my parents at fairly young ages, not incredibly young, but certainly younger than I think I would have expected or hoped for. And those are big influences on me. There's no doubt about it. That's part of this. Go out, enjoy life, embrace life. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We don't live forever. Live in the moment and make the most of it. So I think my parents were very influential. My wife, my kids would probably be the most important influences on me.
Sponsorship and listener support of the Lost Traveler podcast benefits the Lost Travelers Club, a volunteer-operated charitable foundation under United Charitable, a 501c3 public charity. Peregrine is the proper noun we now use to describe a parent who endures the loss of their beloved child, forever carrying their memory and embarking on a lifelong journey of grief, resilience, and hope. The Lost Travelers Club provides programs, resources, and empowerment opportunities for peregrines globally who are navigating their grief journey. Parents of child loss, getting there together. You can support this important work by becoming a sponsor of this podcast or visiting www.losttravelers.club for more information or to make a donation. Thanks for listening and for your continued support. beautiful. What if it were forever?
If we lived forever,
Yeah.
that'd be wonderful. Look, well, first of all, I think there's a couple of answers to that. One, I do think we as a society are going to live longer. I have this belief that there are advances in medicine, and we as a society are learning in a meaningful way. I do think there's going to be exponential growth in life expectancy. So maybe not forever, but to see most people live well into triple digits, I think that's in our lifetime. I really do. I think that's in your lifetime, in my lifetime, and I think that impacts sort of how we view the world and how we go about our daily lives. So that's one sort of answer. Two, I think that, you sort of harped on this before, and I think it's an important point. There's no doubt I think about the future and I plan for the future, but I can't control the future as much as I wish I could. So
Right.
whether the end is tomorrow or it's infinity, as you've posed the question, doesn't really change how I live today. I live today to make today the best day ever, and I live today to make the most of my minutes. And if I wake up again tomorrow, then I have a new opportunity to exceed expectations, to make it an even better day. And if I don't, then I know, maybe, I don't know, that I lived my last day as the very best day ever.
And your kids get to watch that. That's what a beautiful gift to them, is that they get to see you authentically living that out. I remember when I was on my way to university, I wasn't particularly close with my dad at that time, but you're stuck in a car for a couple hours with your dad. You got to talk about something. And I was thinking about my future. I was thinking about my education and my career path. And the question was rising in me, does the career that you choose, this ties back to the purpose question, does the career that you choose affect who you become? And I asked my dad, say, Dad, do you like what you do? My dad was a cultural diplomat for the USIA, so that gave me the privilege of growing up all over the world and seeing America through a very different lens than most American kids, and seeing the world through a different lens as well.
Sure.
And he said, I loathe it. And what's interesting is that in my memory, in the movie of this moment, my dad was much older than he was. And he was only about 44, 45 in that conversation. Right. But I think of him older, which I guess we do anyway when we're kids. And when we look at our parents and our grandparents, we think of them as ancient, when they're actually, now that we're that age, we're like, well, why? They weren't that old. And I think about what I know, what I'm aware of and proficient in, my self-esteem and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, this gives me some insight. And I asked him, I said, Dad, why do you do it if you hate it so much? And he said, well, son, that's the price you pay. When you want your parents to be proud of you, and you want to raise your family well, and you want to have money in the bank, travel the world, security. I said, oh, interesting. Because my dad, for all the good that he was, he also lived with a lot of anguish and a lot of resentment and bitterness. Sure. The world owed him a favor. Why? Because he sold his soul for what he thought other people expected of him, and culture and society, which we forget in that conversation, that we are society. We get to make those decisions and call those shots. And so we drove along, I asked him, I said, well, what did you want to be when you were my age or older or younger? What was your dream? What was your passion? I asked him that. And he had forgotten. He was only 44, but he had forgotten.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
And we drove along for about 20 minutes, and a big tear started streaming down his cheeks. I had never seen my father cry in my life. And I was feeling like, oh shit, did I do something wrong? Did I hit a nerve? He said, no, it's okay. I said, what's the matter? He said, I just remembered I wanted to be a photojournalist for National Geographic. And in my mind, I thought, damn, you could have done that. Had you followed that passion, lived that passion, committed to that passion, your parents would have been so proud of you. You would have traveled the world. You would have had money in the bank. All the things that were a measure of success for him, he could have achieved if he had had your book. And it's never too late. It's never too late.
This is true. And hopefully your listeners take away that message, right? That's a powerful message. And that's exactly what I'm trying to accomplish with the book is make the most of today. Chase your dreams, chase your passions. Don't waste minutes doing things you don't want to do. Life is too short. It's such a beautiful, wonderful, simple concept that you illustrated in that story and that I try to portray in the book and in my speaking.
Are you tired of feeling run down? Do you wish there was a natural, non-invasive, drug-free way to improve your overall health and well-being? If so, then let me introduce you to the Super Patch Company. Super Patches are a range of small neurotech patches that can help with a variety of issues, including sleep, immunity, pain mitigation, athletic performance, focus, anxiety, and stress. They're safe for everyone to use, and they're backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Order your Super Patches today. Now available in the EU, UK, Turkey, Canada, and the US. If you're ready to take control of your health, you can find out more online at dianedinkmeyer.superpatch.com. Super Patches. There's a patch for that.
The reason I asked that question about, what if life was eternal? There's the physical manifestation of life.
Sure.
What we're talking about, we're going to be living into 3 digits. Your kids are going to live older than, the past.
Sure.
But then there's a broader vision that I've been playing with on literally a quantum scale. I'm writing a 14-part video series right now called The Quantum Exploration of Grief, the quantum dimensions of grief. And when we think about how tiny we are in the scale of the known and unknown universe outside of us, there is an equally vast amount of unknown and known within us, right? We're pivotal, right? We're made of all the same stuff as every star, every planet, every comet, everything that we know. We're made of the same materials. And so in that sense, we can say that we are the universe experiencing itself in the human physical form. It's a head scratcher, but literally. But it also means that when we look to the science, say, of physics or quantum theory, what we know is factual today, this is not my opinion, this is documented real fact, is that energy and frequency, which is what we are, the human consciousness as we understand it, and all the physical things too, my water bottle, my dog, my house, me, that it's all frequency, it's all energy, right? And energy and frequency cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed, it just changes form. When the body stops working and we plant it in the earth or we cremate it or we, whatever, those particles that make up who we are transform into something else. We get composted into the earth or we turn into air, whatever. And so in that sense, we are eternal beings, that it takes the human consciousness to conceive of all these things and imagine all these things and manifest all these things. And that doesn't die. And because of my personal experience with loss, there is no loss. I want to change the conversation. I know exactly where my son is. He's living inside me now versus outside.
Right.
But I know where he is. I know what happened to him. I was there. I witnessed it. And so when we talk about loss and we talk about life, for me now, in my late 50s, I'm starting to get a broader perspective of that conversation. And that's why I wanted to share it with you, because in your next book, maybe it'll go even deeper. But what does that mean for living in the moment? What does that mean for your limited minutes? Do the minutes roll over? Maybe they do. I don't know.
Great questions.
There's a
The
big
sequel.
question, all these great, I love this. And one of the things I love about my podcast is that hopefully it is my wish that people leave with more questions than they have answers, that it sets them on a quest. We are all lost travelers. We're all lost travelers. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Goodness knows, especially now. But the world has never not been in chaos. This is the human condition. I remember back in the 70s, my mom was so dedicated to the power of positive thinking. Zig Ziglar, Leo Buscaglia. These are the shoulders you stand upon.
Sure.
Bringing those concepts into a modern dialogue and that touches a frequency that's resonant in our time, the way that they did in their time. My mom, she bought all the material. She had all the cassettes, all the set, and she was always with her headphones and listening to these positive tapes. And I think that we can still do that. Your book is a positive tape. We need to change the tapes in our heads. We need to change the information, the dialogue, all the things that we're told and taught from an early age that are from another time, that may be passé now, or we may have grown beyond, right? That's the quest for proficiency in life skills. And it's ongoing and forever.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Listen, brother, this was great.
A lot of fun.
Hope we stay in touch, and all the best to you in your work and in all the future passions that rise up in you. The world needs everything you are right now. So thank you for sharing this time with me. I feel very privileged.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
You've been listening to Season 4 of the Lost Traveler Podcast with Henry Cameron Allen. Visit me online at henryallen.org. Thank you to my guests, and thank you for tuning in. Let's keep striving for a better world together.